Let's talk about the classroom. What if its most powerful tool wasn't a textbook or even a computer, but an AI that knew you better than you know yourself? Today, we're diving into how artificial intelligence is quickly moving from just science fiction into a daily reality for students, and we're going to explore what that really means for the future of how we learn.
Really think about that for a second. Imagine you're struggling with a tough math problem. Instead of raising your hand and waiting, you get an instant hint, one that's perfectly tailored to your specific misunderstanding at that exact moment. That's the huge promise of AI in education. It's not just about flashy tech. It's about building an education that adapts to you in real time.
So, what does this big shift from a standard classroom to a personalized one actually look like? Well, we're moving away from the kind of classroom most of us remember, right? One lesson for 30 different kids all learning at the same pace. And we're moving towards something way more personal, way more dynamic. The difference is pretty stark. Just look at this breakdown. On the left, that's the traditional setup, one size fits all, fixed pace. But on the right, you see the AI-powered vision. The really big deal here is that shift from teacher-led to learner-centric. What this means is the AI can handle all the personalized drills and explanations, which frees up the human teacher to focus on the things humans do best: mentoring, creativity, and real critical thinking.
So what's actually in this new AI toolbox? Well, you've got platforms that adapt lessons as you go. You've got AI tutors ready to help you 24/7. Some of these systems can even sense when you're getting frustrated and change up their approach. And the engine driving all of this? Large language models. Yep, the same incredible tech behind tools like ChatGPT, which can provide these really sophisticated, context-aware explanations.
And look, this isn't just some gimmick. As the research makes really clear, the whole point of this is deeper engagement, deeper understanding. The key takeaway here is simple. The technology isn't the focus, it's a tool to get to better learning.
Okay, this all sounds pretty amazing, right? But it brings up a huge question. How in the world does the AI actually know what you need? Well, the secret? It's all in the data. It all works in this continuous loop. So, step one, the AI collects data on pretty much everything, from your test scores to how you interact with the lesson. Step two, it uses deep learning to churn through that data, find patterns, and even predict where you're probably going to struggle next. And then step three, it adapts the content on the fly to help you out. And this loop just runs constantly, getting smarter and smarter about you the more you use it.
Now, the secret ingredient that makes this all so powerful is something called multimodal data. It sounds like a fancy term, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It just means combining all these different types of information, what you write, what you say, even video, to create a much richer, more complete picture of you as a student. So it starts with the obvious stuff, test scores, how long it takes you to answer a question, but then it goes so much deeper. It can analyze video feeds to see if you're paying attention, pull data from wearables to track focus, and even analyze the sentiment in your messages to figure out your emotional state. It's like a complete 360-degree view of you, the learner.
And this is just how detailed this analysis can get. There are algorithms like PoseNet that can literally analyze the student's posture from a video feed to tell if they're engaged or if they're starting to zone out. That's a huge, huge leap in understanding what's happening with a student in the moment. Of course, collecting this much data and letting algorithms make decisions about a person's education, well, that brings up some massive challenges. This technology is incredibly powerful, but we have some really serious hurdles to clear before we can roll this out safely and fairly for everyone.
The sources we looked at really point to four major hurdles. First, you've got data privacy. How do we protect all of this incredibly sensitive student data? Second, algorithmic bias. How do we make sure the AI doesn't just reinforce the inequalities that already exist? Third, what's called the black box problem. Can we really trust an AI if we have no idea how it's making its decisions? And finally, equity. What happens when only the wealthiest schools can afford these powerful tools?
Let's just zoom in on bias for a second, because it is one of the most critical risks here. The whole problem really boils down to a classic, super simple phrase from the world of computer science.
If the data you feed an AI is biased, say it reflects historical inequalities or it underrepresents certain groups of people, then the AI's recommendations, its decisions, its outputs, they're going to be biased too. It will actually learn and then amplify those existing problems, creating a system that is fundamentally unfair.
And the stakes could not be higher. As this researcher, Deg Larley, points out, education is a uniquely sensitive field. These AI tools aren't just recommending a movie on Netflix, they are actively shaping a child's entire learning environment and their developmental path. Getting this wrong has some really serious consequences.
So, okay, the challenges are huge, no doubt. But the good news is that researchers are already hard at work developing some really innovative solutions. They're designed to build a smarter, safer, and much more equitable future for AI in education.
And what's cool is that for every major problem, there's a corresponding area of research working on a solution. To solve that black box mystery, we have something called explainable AI. To tackle the huge data privacy risks, there's federated learning. And to fight bias, researchers are building specific bias mitigation frameworks.
Explainable AI, or XAI, is a total game changer. It's all about building systems that don't just give you an answer, but can actually show their work. They can explain why they made a certain recommendation. This kind of transparency is absolutely crucial for building trust with teachers and students and for making sure there's accountability.
And then for privacy, you have federated learning. Honestly, this is a brilliant solution. Instead of sending all that sensitive student data to one central server to train a giant AI model, the model actually comes to the data.
Here's how it works in 3 simple steps. First, the AI model trains on data right where it lives, locally, at the school, or maybe even on a student's own device. Then, only the anonymous learnings from that data, not the data itself, are sent back to improve the central model. This means the really sensitive student data never, ever leaves its safe and secure environment. It's a huge win for privacy.
So the main takeaway here is pretty clear. By weaving together these different solutions, we really can build educational AI that isn't just incredibly powerful, but that's also transparent, fair, and secure.
And that really brings us to the final and most important question. The technology is moving forward at an absolutely incredible speed. So the challenge now, for all of us, for educators, for developers, for policymakers, is to make sure that as we build this future, we build it to empower every single student equally.